My name is Jay Johnson. The soldiers were sitting around waiting for new directives to come from the top brass. Then the phone rang. The red beacon light turned on, casting the room into a warm, red, flashing glow. And the soldiers sprang to their desks, ready for the next command. The man in charge barked out orders to those on the left and shouted at those on the right. The desk-based warriors began to furiously pound on their keyboards as they began to work. Now, if you thought that a war had just been declared, you would be half right and half wrong. You see, the soldiers were at war, but not the war you were probably thinking of. This is the Information War, and these soldiers are the newest addition to the British Army, the 77th Battalion. Now, this battalion is not exactly new because it did exist once before, back in World War II, but it was disbanded in 1945. Back then, it was a guerrilla unit and was run by a pioneer of modern unconventional warfare, British Major General Ord Wingate. Of course, many historians debate the success of the battalion's missions, with most calling them of questionable success, but apparently it was successful enough so that it was brought back from the dead and reinvented for this time. Apparently, the first rule of Facebook Fight Club has been broken, as people now know that there is a Facebook Fight Club. The Financial Times recently reported that these Facebook warriors will be using similar atypical tactics as their predecessors back in the Second World War, although through non-violent means, to fight their adversary, whoever that may be, on that particular day. This will mainly be achieved through something called reflexive control, which is a tactic of spreading specifically curated information in order to get your opponent to react in the exact way you want them to. It's a pretty tricky trick, and the British Army will be doing just that with a 1,500-person troop using Twitter and Facebook as a means to spread disinformation, real war truths, and false flag incidents, as well as just general intelligence gathering. And the 77th Battalion will reportedly begin operations in April. But it's not just Britain that is creating an online army. In a recent article, theguardian.co.uk noted that the Israeli Defense Force, or the IDF, used 30 different social media sites in several different languages during a recent active military boots-on-the-ground operation in an effort to, as an IDF spokesperson said, engage with an audience we otherwise wouldn't reach. And who else is doing this? Well, a quick glance on Google reveals that the US also has this in its bag of tricks. An article on wiki.com notes that back in March of 2011, a company by the name of Intrepid won a $2.76 million contract from the US military for something called online persona management. The contract was for the creation of technology which would allow for blogging activities on websites exclusively outside of the United States to, quote, counter violent extremist and enemy propaganda, unquote. It would allow for one operator to anonymously create and control up to 10 personas from one computer. Each persona would have a background, history, supporting details, and cyber presence that is consistent from a technical, cultural, and geographic standpoint. The project was overseen by the U.S. Central Command, also known as CENTCOM, and a CENTCOM spokesman, Commander Bill Speaks, stated at the time that the operation would be carried out in Arabic, Farsi, and Urdu, which, of course, are the languages in the Middle East. So, right about now, you're probably telling yourself that information on the internet has become even more unreliable. And it's probably better to stick with older forms of media to get your daily dose of information, right? Well, about that. You see, as long as a person was actually inside the United States, they could be relatively sure that they were getting the actual news, filtered, and sometimes not the whole picture. Or sometimes information was left out, but at least it was real news. Why? Well, there was a so-called anti-propaganda law that prevented the U.S. government's mammoth broadcasting arm from delivering programming to American audiences. However, ForeignPolicy.com reports that on July 2nd, 2013, all of that changed. On that fateful day, thousands of hours of government-funded radio and TV programs were unleashed for domestic U.S. consumption. BuzzFeed.com reported that a concerned official inside the Pentagon noted that there are no checks and balances. No one knows if the information is accurate, partially accurate, or entirely false. In fact, Several journalists working for USA Today who were investigating the Pentagon and the billions of dollars that it spends on information operations were targeted in an apparent retaliation attack by Pentagon contractors who created fake Facebook pages and Twitter accounts in an attempt to discredit the journalists. But they didn't stop there. The USA Today notes that the Pentagon contractors also registered websites in their names, created Wikipedia entries, and dozens of message board postings and even blog comments. And that really is the catch. It's now very difficult to cut through all of the noise in the information sphere. And even if a person does seek the truth, it is possible to be punished by those supposedly good guys that are working to cloud the issues and to push an agenda. Navigating through the smoke and mirrors has just become a little more perilous and even more dangerous. So what do you think, dear listeners? Can traditional media be trusted in America?